I got that name. I got
Uh-huh.
that name from the series for C.S. Lewis,
Oh, yeah.
The
C.S. Lewis.
Chronicles of Narnia, and the
Narnia.
boat
Yeah.
that they used was the Dawn Treader.
Got it. It's been a long, long time since I read C.S. Lewis, but got it. Okay, I'm gonna read a couple. And thank you for playing around, you guys. I just wanted a little non-weighty icebreaker. Donna Gaddis, CCAV. Our around the world boat would be named For the Halibut. Oh, I like that. A play on words. I like that. For the
So we've
Halibut.
had a boat named for the halibut. It was a little speedboat,
I love it.
and there's 4 people in our family, and sailing is for the halibut. It's a money pit. So we
I
currently only use the yacht club boats. We don't have our own around the world boat, but I would
but I like
dream to do
but
that.
as a communications major, I like the play on words. For the
Is that
halibut.
cute?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Denise, free forever. So she'll be on the water free forever. Oh,
Yeah,
we got another word one. David, the Codfather. That's
the
awesome.
Codfather. That's good,
I
David.
love that. That's great. Oh my God, all these witty people in this room. I love it. I love it. Bridget, do you have a boat name, or are you sanded? Are you grounded? Are you getting on that boat and
I'm still
heading
thinking
off?
about it.
Okay, well, I thank you so much, Denise, David, Don. Those were really fun. I love the Codfather. Okay, so we're gonna get into the thick of it. We're gonna review basically. I'm gonna go real fast just because we had a lot of um, we had a lot of weighty information for those of you who attended any of the meetings in February. We went over a lot. So I'm just going to do a basic overview. As I mentioned, if you can try and get to any of our March meetings, we do have 4 meetings now, and they're at 10 and 4. I'll go over the dates at the end. But if you can make it, that's great. If not, no problem. I'll always try and go over what we went over. And again, a lot of what we're doing, I mentioned it in our first meeting in January, and I'm going to mention it today. We're doing a lot of foundational framework. So that's really what's going on at the regional partnership level. And you'll kind of hear those interchanged words, but it's the same thing. It's just the bigger body that this committee is answers to, or is the advisory to. So some of the things that we talked about systems, here in Children's Bureau, and with in particular Best Start. Our work is systems change. So if you hear that a lot and you're like, what in the world is that? It's changing a system. So a perfect example is DCFS. DCFS has issues with maybe, Black and brown children being not necessarily targeted, but being removed, their families, their children being removed at higher levels in other ethnicities. And so they are actively looking at that and trying to combat that. And they have an ERDD, which I always forget what it stands for, but it's equity, racial disproportionality, to try and look at why it's happening and to work on that. So that's a system that's in place that they're trying to change for the better. And the system can go all the way down to yourself, and then all the way up through community, local, city, social services, national, global. So we talked a lot about systems change. We talked about our framework. So when we're looking at systems change, how do we work to change the systems? How do we use what we've got to break it up? And we have asset base, which is exactly what it sounds, using who's in the community, their assets to work and change the community change agenda. In this case, child welfare. We've got the 6 conditions of systems change. Again, I just mentioned how DCFS works to change that. Popular education model, that's where you're not talking at, you're talking with. And then rural communities organizing, and that's again what we are here in the Antelope Valley. So that's some of the framework that we're working on. And in the middle, you can see there, Antelope Valley stronger, families stronger together. And then the darker peach is going to be the next slide. So that's systems change. As I mentioned, the approach is capacity building. If you're in any of our trauma informed framework, if you're in our diversity, that is capacity build. So offering another tool in the toolbox for our residents and stakeholders. And then community engagement. Obviously, nothing happens without our community's voice, and they're an absolute component in the work we do. Then we talked about values and agreements. So the values, what we hold, what's important to the community, how they work, how they want to do something useful. and then agreement. So being in agreement of how we're doing it as we move together. So these are all important aspects of the work that's going on at the regional level. So let's recap a little bit about the policy committee. And again, if you were here last time, we're just going to move through this real quickly. It just gives you a sense of centering and what the purpose is for the committee and why we're here. So obviously policy, right? Policy, we want to be, and we are going to be a large, an advisory role to the larger regional group. So that's what we do. We advise and we focus on policy in the Antelope Valley. Now, as we look to different policy, we might not always be looking at legislators in the AV, sure, because the AV is one component of the larger county, LA County, and then of course the larger state of California. So our bills may not be wholly focused on the AV, but they're going to impact our families, our children. And so that's a good thing to keep in mind. And then also the federal bills, although I don't have any federal bills at this time. This, I know I've showed you this before. This is just, I like to show you this because it just tells you where we are, in the larger scheme of things. So again, we've got Children's Bureau. That's myself, Darrell, Stephanie, Bridget. We all work for Children's Bureau. So that is our agency, and we hold the grant. So the Best Start is funded through First Five of LA. We're the holder of the grant. Then we've got our partners at AVPH, and there are local network contractors. They're what does the community organizing and that sort. So that's kind of who you've got in the room. And then the partnership, again, as I mentioned, that's the larger group. That's the group that met last Thursday, that will meet again in another week. And that's who we advise to as a committee here. Now, I want to point out to you that kind of that middle, that lilac group, those are the committees. And currently, which is kind of exciting, the policy is the only one that's meeting at this time. So the other ones will come into fruition, but I think that's cool because we're already working to try and obtain and succeed at the goals that we have set out for us. So I think that's exciting to remember that, we're doing some good work here. And then co-chairs, obviously, as we move forward, as we get up and running, people that really want to maybe move forward, you could always contact me or seek me out and be like, hey, I'd like to be a co-chair. And then that means that you just take more of a more of a ownership of the committee. And again, that's further down, but that's what it looks like. That's what the partnership structure looks like. So I just like to keep that in mind. And then the purpose, again, community involvement in policy and driving the community change agenda. Our current change agenda is child abuse prevention and resource mobilization. That might change, as the larger group meets, we may have a change in the we call it the CCA, the community change agenda. However, it won't stray that far from being child welfare because that's our focus. Our focus in Best Start is children and families 0 to 5. That's First Five's goal. Children's Bureau, same thing. So that's a thread that it's not going to deviate that much. It may change a little, but not overall. And so again, that's the work that we're doing. That's the purpose. And if anybody has any questions, feel free to stop me, or I don't mind. Roles, responsibilities. Again, you'll see this thread looking at bills, monitoring bills. I already have placed what we have currently 9 bills, and what we're going to go over. I've already placed those 9 bills into a matrix. So I'm going to if you hear me call it the policy matrix, that's what I'm talking about. It's just the listing of all the bills, where they are in committee, where they're, what they're doing, where they've been heard. So that's what I mean when I talk about the policy matrix. So it's exciting. We've got our 9 bills. So I wanted to go over this with you, just real basic, because maybe some of you could teach a class on legislation, and maybe some of you are seeing this for the first time, or you have some idea. But I thought that this might be helpful for you to see the legislative timeline. And again, when I'm using any of this for this meeting purpose, I'm going to be always talking about California. So it may be that the federal level is a little different and they have different, deadlines, et cetera. So just keep that in mind for this current meeting. We're talking about California. So this is the legislative budget timeline. And so what happened is in January, new legislation is introduced. February, which we're at the almost end of, we've got another week to go. The bills are being introduced and their deadline was Friday. So all the bills that were introduced by the legislation, and this includes the Assembly and the Senate. So all of the bills that were introduced, they're done. So they're done, they're in. Now, what happens in March, as we enter March, in the next week and a half, the legislative budget hearings are going to happen, and then there's going to be hearing on new bills, and this is prime advocacy time. So that's really important to remember. So that's what's going on in March, and then as we get on into April, we start to, if you've ever heard this saying, the governors may revise. That's what's happening in April and May. There's final hearings on the new bills, and then the House of Origin deadline. So if you're not clear on that, I'm going to show you a little bit of a kind of a matrix, kind of a outline of how the bills work. But that's what's going on. And then the House of Origins, they have to pass through the first house. And then we have final budget. And so that's June. So let me just stop sharing. And I just wanted to share with you the legislation, what's happening when they've got. So make sure I've got the right one. Okay, here we go. And so, and again, I'm sorry if some of you, if this is old hat and you're just like bored, I'm sorry. I just want to make sure we understand so that if it's unclear, that's why. So, Darrell, I can see you. Can you see my screen? Okay, so this is what it looks like. So when we're talking about the bills, the life of a bill, let's say, or we're talking about the legislature, this is how it works. So you see on the left, you've got bill authoring, bill introduction. So if I'm a legislator, I'm in the Assembly, I'm in the Senate, you introduce the bill, then it's referred to committee. So you see in there, the House is blue for Assembly and then like a teal for Senate. They're the exact same. And when they're done, they switch into the second house. So that's what it means. So the Assembly will be referred to committee, have a hearing, appropriations, floor vote, and then it passes to the second house. When it passes to the second house, that's what it means. It's going now into the Senate, and then vice versa for the Senate to the Assembly. There's a vote, goes to the governor's desk, and then it's law or vetoed. And so that's kind of the life of a bill. It's much more intricate than that. And I actually found, like, this was another one I found, this really goes into depth. And I'll share these with all of you, but I just wanted to make it real simple. So when you see that, when you see what I had on my presentation, that's what we're talking about when we're talking about the hearings, the bills, the committee. That's what we're looking at. Any questions? I want to make sure I'm not going too fast, or if there's, I want to make sure. Okay. And like I said, stop me if you want me to elaborate. So let's go back. And so, so as I mentioned, what we've got here right now is the legislative timeline. So as I mentioned, that's what's happening for the next couple of months. So for the next couple of months, it's going to be straightforward. It's going to be hearings, committee, and making their way through. So that's as it is. And then obviously what's going on in the governor's office, the May revise, things will be cut, things will be added. Anything can happen. That's pretty standard in regards to that. So exciting. We're going to talk a little bit about child welfare bills. So I'm going to break it down into two different parts. And again, these came from, as I'd mentioned in the first meeting, I meet with Adam Seaton. He's the Advocacy Legislative Affairs for Children's Bureau, who again I work for. And so they follow bills that are child welfare related. So these are these bills. Now, I also heard, very exciting, it was actually just today, I heard from our Assemblyman, Tom Lackey, and his legislative director, Andrew Mendoza, got back to me and said, hey, we want you to put these on your radar. So that's exciting because that's what we want to do here. We really want to work with our local legislators. We want to see what bill may stand out and then move forward. Now, I would like to keep in mind before we move forward that these are all informational gathering at this time. None of these bills are even on a lot of their websites. If you go and look up any of these legislators, they're not even there yet. These are very new. And again, the deadline just closed on the 17th. So these are very, very new. So the information I have is just what I've received. And so I just want to be, I just want to let you know that that's where we're at. So these are not bills that, have a lot of traction yet. So let's move forward. This is super exciting. So child welfare bills, these are the 5 bills we've got. So AB stands for Assembly bill and SB is Senate. So we've got 3 Assembly and 2 Senate bills, and these are all in California. as I mentioned, but not local. So these are not local legislators to us, these 5. But let me go through them and give you a sense of what we're looking at. So this one is our first bill that we're looking at here. And this is Mike Gibson, AB 373. And this bill would require a school district, county office of education, a charter school, any educational related, to grant priority access to foster children and homeless youth. The bill would provide that if a foster child or homeless youth will be moving during an intercession period, the pupil's parent, guardian, etc., shall determine which school the pupil attends. This bill, as of February 9th, was referred to the Education Committee and the Human Services Committee. So that's where it is right now as of February 9th. Okay, let's go to the next bill. This bill is 391, Reggie Jones Sawyer. And this bill is a really interesting bill. And I think we're going to see this might garner some, I'm not sure good or bad, but this is going to be an interesting bill because this would be a game changer. This would get rid of anonymous DCFS reporting. So what this bill is doing is it requires non-mandated reporters, to provide specified information, including their name, telephone number, and the information that gave rise to the suspicion of child abuse or neglect. The bill would prohibit a report from a non-mandated reporter to be transmitted to local child protective services for investigation unless the reporter's name and contact information are provided. By requiring local agencies to gather additional information from non-mandated reporters, that bill would impose a state-mandated local program. So the reason why this one is really interesting, as I said, is this would get rid of anonymous reporting. And what has happened and what they've seen over and over again is people using the system as a weapon. So they're seeing this a lot in, divorce cases. You hate your local, your neighbor, etc., and they're using it, to kind of stick it to the family or the person. That's not all, but they've seen it enough to where now we have legislation trying to do this. So this would be huge, but this is what it would do. So it would get rid of the anonymous. And as of now, this bill is in the Public Safety Committee as of February 9th. So it's in the Public Safety Committee being heard. This is an interesting one. This is AB 599, Chris Ward. And this one, it's a little weighty. It's a little long-winded here, but basically, as of July 1st, 2025, it would remove having possessed or used tobacco or any of the products, and that cigarettes, cigars, miniature, clothes, from the list of acts for which a pupil, regardless of their grade, be suspended or recommended for expulsion for having had those products. So that's what it would do. And then the final part is, again, the bill commencing July 1st, 2025, prohibits a charter school pupil in kindergarten or any of the grades from being suspended or recommended for expulsion solely on the basis of those acts. So that's what that would do. And this is referred to the Education Committee as of February 17th. So just this Friday, it went into the Education Committee. Okay, and this is pretty basic. This is SB 407, Scott Wiener. This bill would ensure that the LGBTQ foster youth in California are placed in homes that are affirming of LGBTQ identities. It was introduced, read the first time, and is in rules awaiting committee assignment. So it's not anywhere yet. It's just waiting for its committee assignment. So that's where that one is. And then finally, of the 5 bills that are outside of AV, this is SB 47, Richard Roth. This bill would require an agency that receives a report of known or suspected child abuse to take specified actions, including requiring an investigator to make contact with the person who made the report and visit the child who is the subject of the report in person to determine if the child should be removed from the home during the investigation into the report of child abuse and neglect. And when I was talking to Adam, this one is the problem with this one is manpower, basically, because on theory, this is a great idea, but who's going to do that? That's the problem, because that means that every person that has a report on them, you have to talk to the child, you have to talk to the person that made it, and it doesn't specify at this time who that would be. Is that going to be DCFS? Is that going to be, one of the other agencies? Is that going to be the local sheriffs? Like, who is that going to be? So that's a really interesting one of manpower. Who would that be? And so currently, this bill has been referred to Public Safety Committee as of January 25th. So it's been there for almost a month now. So that's that SB 47 right now. And so before I go, like I said, I just talked to Andrew Mendoza today, who is the ledge director of Semi Lackey. Do you have any questions so far? Any clarifications or anything that I could help answer? Or?
I just was curious what the logic was behind the non-anonymous reporter bill.
Yeah. Yeah,
that seems like it would diminish the number of reports rather than increase the number of reports. Now, I mean, I guess allegedly if there's false reports, and that's the concern, but I'm just curious because I think that you might see those that are inhibited from making a report for fear of retaliation or for whatever that case may be. But
thank you, Karen. As I talked to Adam, and like I said, a lot of these bills, are in the information gathering stages. So, I want to make sure that we're clear on that, because again, it could change. Bills can definitely be revised. At this time, that's what I heard. When I spoke to Adam, he said that the issue was that a lot of what was happening is people are using the reporting system as a tool, as a weapon. And so they're just trying to eliminate that. But I think it's like you said, it's kind of a two-edged sword, right? Like, sure, that might get rid of some, but then, yeah, what about the people that might be hesitant or might, they maybe don't want to leave their name for whatever reason, but it's a absolutely legitimate, concern. So that's all I knew about that bill, is that they're trying to alleviate that unnecessary or the reporting that is not based on facts, that they're trying to use it for reasons not wholly holistic.
that makes sense. I appreciate the clarification. I still have concerns, but obviously it's still in the early stages. So that's
absolutely.
good.
No, and Karen, I appreciate that. Like I said, as we move forward, I definitely, if there is a stance on a bill that we want to take, I will do my best to either try and bring that legislators ledge person in, or do much more fact finding. And again, these are all fairly new bills. Like I said, I looked on all of their websites, and none of them even have their 23-24 ledge listed. So we're definitely in the beginning stages. But but great question. I mean, that's to eliminate anonymous reporting is huge. Like I said, huge. Hey, Donna.
My general question is financial impact. I work on the hospital side on bills through the California Hospital Association. And one thing that they do beautifully is they tell us how much everything's going to cost and who's going to pay for it and where the money's going to come from before we start to inform others about whether or not we're supporting the bill and whether or not we're asking our local leaders to support the bill. Do we have that opportunity in child welfare bills? Because some things in child welfare sound wonderful, but is the funding source connected to it right away usually? How's that work?
Yeah, I'm not sure, because I know there's a couple bills, like you said, and it's not just necessarily, just the flat rate, but also manpower. Like I said, with the one bill, they're asking for people to, to go and visit each of the child and each of the person who made it. So again, who is that going to be? And I'm not asking these questions like these are like who is going to do that? So I think as we get more, as we progress, that can absolutely be something that I'll be tasked with. If that's a concern here, I agree, because it's going to impact, the taxpayers. It's going to impact, whoever. And I know that usually for many reasons bills fail, but budget is absolutely one of the major reasons. I mean, so yeah, if that's something that the committee wants, I can certainly make sure that as we move forward, I will look into that and make sure that that's addressed.
So for example, like as we get further,
Mhm.
looking at the one where they have to go visit everybody in person,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
It sounds great in theory,
Mhm.
but say the Children's Center made the report. I'll just use us.
Mhm.
You don't really need to come visit us in person. We do this for a living, and
Mhm.
we could give you the information without physically trying to get, so I that would be interesting, that how they get tweaked or amended or revised, and my fear, and again, I'm a little selfish here now, the money probably is going to get taken from something else.
Yeah.
So you do wonder, like, how much of that we can have information on until
Okay.
before it goes way too far.
Yeah, no, and I agree, and I think that's just kind of legitimate. Like you just said, you do this for a living. Children's Bureau, that's we're that's a part of us. I mean, if you're a mandated reporter, that's a part of your, yeah. And so again, that's something to consider, to think about, because if we're going to make recommendations to support, we need to have everything in place, and all of it very, very transparent for us and for our larger group. So I appreciate that. So yes, as we move forward, that will be definitely something I will look at for the committee. So
Thank you.
absolutely. Mhm. Any other questions before I continue? And this is great. Thank you so much. I really appreciate the dialogue here. I'm gonna continue on. So now what we've got is, as I mentioned, I talked to Donna. Can you see? I can see you. Can you see the screen? Okay. So I talked to Andrew Mendoza, who is the ledge director for our Assemblyman Tom Lackey, and they have 4 bills that they asked us to keep on the radar. And so I'm super excited because one of them is a continuation. So if you are all at all familiar with Gabriel Fernandez unfortunately was a child. Excuse me, was a child that was lived up here, and he was it was very tragic. He was killed by his mother and her boyfriend, and there was 2 bills that came out of his death that Lackey and Wilk, our senator, both tried in different ways to get to get a kind of to kind of tackle child abuse, but in a different way. And this was the second one was 1450, AB 1450, and it was an index exactly like this, and kind of it reminded me of like Megan's Law, where that was an index of sex offenders. Well, this was child abuse offenders, and so it revisits the the Child Abuse Central Index by reinstating law enforcement abilities to enter data directly into this index and moves their grievance process over to the DOJ. So that's new. That's new. Before, it was still within the DCFS arena. This moves it over to the DOJ, which is the Department of Justice. So that's really interesting. And again, I just got these 4 bills today. So it may be heard in committee on March 20th as of February 18th. So literally this just happened. And so we're going to keep an eye on this, but this is all new because I just got that bill today. So that's AB 1544. So that is the new Gabriel's Law. This is another interesting one, and again, these bills are all new, so I haven't had that much chance to review them. But this is AB 898. It requires that a report be compiled detailing the injuries occurring at juvenile hall facilities. According to Andrew, reports have been a cause for concern. There have been accusations of sexual abuse, extreme restraints that led to claims of child abuse, and a lack of access to toilets. So there's some big concerns here. So undoubtedly, the probation officers want this data to advocate for resources for improving staffing at these facilities. So that's what we're looking at, and it is going to possibly be in committee as of March 17th. So that's where that one is. We have the next one is AB 1302. This bill, hold on, let me make sure I didn't go too far. Yeah, I went too far. This is AB 1202. This requires the Department of Healthcare Services, DHCS, to do an analysis of the time and distance associated with appointment times for Medi-Cal managed care plans specifically for children. A recently published audit announced that less than half of the children on Medi-Cal are missing at least one of their essential prevention services. So this is very important. These provide early detection of developmental disabilities and health issues. So that's really an interesting one. That's AB 1202. It may be heard in committee in March, and that's as of Friday. So that one is on its way. So that's a really interesting one. And finally, this is our fourth one from our Assemblyman Lackey. This bill would allow adult adoptees to receive unredacted birth certificates to better assess their family medical history and determine genealogy. It does include a period of time for birth parents to opt out, so they do have that choice. The opening of records is a move that many states have taken after the COVID-19 pandemic. So that would be an interesting change. This one will also be heard in committee in mid-March as of Friday. So those are the four bills that we have. And so I just wanted to stop here to take a moment. I'm just going to stop sharing for just a minute. Did anybody have any questions on the Lackey bills? Any comments, thoughts? Donna?
So I'm proud of Assemblyman Lackey for being at this again.
Uh-huh.
The one with the index.
Yes,
It's been a long fight. So I'm very grateful that he's finding a way to rework it. We provided some expert testimony in Sacramento on the old bill.
Okay.
Because we had evidence of people, child abusers, that go from county to county and county, and because the counties don't talk to each other, they're sort of able to skirt by. So we provided him some of that. So I'm going to be curious to see how they remedied the issues, but we should be grateful that they've been bulldogs with this. So I'm very grateful to have them as our leaders right now.
Yeah, I know there were some issues with the last one. I had talked to Andrew, and I know there was some issues. So yeah, they're trying to, I think, alleviate it. And yeah, so it's interesting, and I'm happy as well to see this back again. And like I mentioned, I think I compare it to Megan's Law. I don't know if you do, Donna, but I kind of compare it to the Megan's Law, but in the child abuse area. So yeah, absolutely. Any other questions okay, I'm gonna continue. If you have any questions, just stop me. So yeah, so as I mentioned, what we're doing here is informational. So the bills, as I showed on the ledge calendar, the bills we're in information gathering stage. So we've got our 4 out of the area bills that we're looking at that are still California related, that would still affect our families and children. And then we have our 4 bills from our Assemblyman Lackey, Tom Lackey, who these are absolutely our backyard. And as Donna mentioned, the index, even though it came from Gabriel Fernandez, that would absolutely impact all of California with an index. So super exciting to be at this again. So we're looking at the issues related to our change agenda. As I mentioned before, these are all child welfare bills. They all impact children and families in one way or another. So these are absolutely within our range of the work that our larger group is doing that we advise to. So we're right there where we need to be. So the next steps, as I mentioned, besides informational gathering, there would be, an advice to the partnership, and that could be anywhere from monitoring, which we're already doing. That's a part of my job. We're already monitoring. We already have 9 bills on our radar, and the next steps would be, as we go further, would be letters of support, phone calls, visits, public information, social media strategies, any of those to get the word out. So I'm going to stop here just a moment again and ask the group, because I just want to, I want it to be a dialogue now. I know I've been talking, but I wanted to kind of get a sense of, as we're looking at these bills, are there any bills that stand out to you that, you feel, very strongly about, or any comments that you have at this point? And I'm going to make sure that I take this all down so we can revisit this in March. But this is your chance to, please let me know which bills are really resonating with you and that you think we as a group should be supporting. And don't all talk at once. And I know Donna, you mentioned obviously the new Gabriel's Law. I don't know if are they calling it that again? 1544? I'm not sure. Okay.
No, I think that's one of the things they're trying to not make it so. They're trying to make it more as an oversight and
got it.
Yeah.
Which is good because
It is
obviously, obviously Gabriel I mean, and he's not the only one. I mean, if you know if you know Anthony, but yeah, okay. So I know that was a bill that that CCAV has supported. Any other, Tony, Karen, Denise, David, any other bills that are resonating well, David?
Yeah, I think AB 898 was another one that really kind of resonated in terms of the seems like the transparency that you would think was already, would be pre-existing or written into the the systemic structure of reporting within those facilities. Definitely something that seems like it would be something that I'm supportive of as it stands, as far as we see that as it's written so far.
Okay.
Because especially if we're talking about juvenile hall, then that adds just another layer of sensitivity when it comes to rehabilitation, and especially if there's sexual abuse and violence occurring in those facilities, it doesn't really bode well for, any individuals coming out of there.
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay, so 898. I just want to make sure we get everybody. Tony, Karen, Denise, anything that you wanted to add? Any bill again that, and again, you don't have to. I'm just trying to get a sense as a committee, because we do have, many different people on here. One bill may resonate with another, and it doesn't mean we just have to support one. We can, we can make numerous recommendations, but I do want to get a sense of what the group is thinking, so that way, as I plan the next meeting, I can bring in, maybe people to talk or expand on those particular bills. So that's why it's important for me to hear from yourselves what you're thinking. So yeah, Don.
Because the anonymous one will
Mhm.
have such great impact.
Yeah.
If there's anyone that we probably need more information about sooner rather than later,
Yeah.
I think I would pick that one as my help me understand this, because what I have been told anecdotally
Mhm.
is the people who are going to squeal on people will then switch from calling DCFS to the police every time.
Got it.
So
Got it.
I would love to know more about their thought process. I understand there's nosy neighbors. I understand
Sure.
people use it to leverage divorce. Perhaps you're assigned a number
Mhm.
and that you can register for safely, so there isn't retaliation. There's
Yeah.
got to be more than just,
Getting rid of-
overturning the system to that matter. There must be more to it. So I would be curious.
Okay. So yeah, so a little bit delving in more. And again, I appreciate that. I am hoping that as the next month progresses, we will have a lot more meaty substance than what we have now. So yeah, but totally agree. What is it, baby with the bathwater? Isn't that the saying? Okay.
I definitely agree with what Donna said, because with us working for the county being mandated reporters, we don't have that same fear of reporting. But I can see where a private person would do exactly what Donna just said. They would go to the police instead of calling it a child abuse report. So then you have another system overload.
Yeah.
Because people are maybe the neighbor is nosy, but maybe the neighbor has saw, the child being abused, or even with adult reporting, we have a lot of elder abuse up here too. Well, all over, for that fact. But there's not, when we looked at the child abuse reporting, we also have to think about, elder dependent abuse. There's other issues. And if you have to give up your information, that might, stop some people from reporting directly and then just filing a report with the sheriff or with the police department, wherever they live.
Yeah, and then that
So I can see
overloads.
that that's an issue.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, great, Tony. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Yeah, so I'm hearing we definitely need to have a little bit more on the anonymous reporter bill. Okay. Denise, Karen, any thoughts that you want to put on? And if you don't have to, want to put you on the spot.
I'm just in agreement as far as like the reporting, because I know situations where sometimes it's a family member, even in the household, that if they had to leave their name, they'd be afraid to do so. And, as far as just, making sure that everybody is following certain procedures and guidelines. And I think a couple of those bills address that to make sure everybody's on the same page, I think is important
Okay, yeah,
as well.
good point. Okay, yeah. So we're getting, so there's a lot of movement around that anonymous reporter bill. So we need some more, we need to understand it. That's good. Okay. And then, Karen, I know you spoke earlier. Any final thoughts, or you're good? I don't want to put you on the spot if you don't want to. Okay. Let me just check the chat, make sure I didn't miss anything. Oh, Carla said unfortunately, I have to jump into another meeting. I look forward to the recording and more about the next step. Okay. So Carla, okay, great. Okay. Well, let me, because I know we're about 10 minutes out. So let me just share my last couple slides with you. And so again, these are, as I mentioned, these are, it's informational only. That's what we're doing right now. Looking at these bills, I've gotten a lot of feedback from everyone here, so I really appreciate that. I should have moved that further, but any questions? We just went over that. I'm going to let you know that our next regional meeting is next, I put Tuesday. That's incorrect. Excuse me. That's Thursday, but we have March 2nd and the 16th. We do have 4, the 10 a.m. and the 4 p.m. So if you're able to make the in-person or virtual, we'd love to see you. But if not, like I said, I'll always be doing a revisit of what happened in the regional. So that's great. And then, as I said, March 29th, we'll always meet on the last Wednesday at 2 p.m. and here virtual. So that's not going to change. And so finally, like I wanted to say is, again, thank you so much for coming today. I really appreciate it. What I'm going to do next is, like I said, I'm going to look at all the bills that we talked about, but I'm going to take the bills that were mentioned here and dive into them deeper. So I'm going to look at, Donna mentioned the new index bill from Lackey. We're going to look at 898 that David spoke about, and then all of you really had some concerns and want to dive deeper into the anonymous reporter, really getting to know a little bit more about that. And so these are all things that I'm going to take back. And so those are kind of coming into the forefront, because as a group, we can take all of them, we can take one, there's no number, but I think this is what I'm hearing that really is of an interest to the group right now. So it's not that we will get rid of the other bills, but these are kind of moving into the forefront of the bills that want to be looked at by this group. So that's what I'm going to do for the next meeting. And if at all possible, I'm going to reach out to the anonymous reporter, to that legislator's office, and see if they can provide me with some more information, and so that we can really have a discussion on that bill and where we want to go. So that's going to be my heavy lifting, and that's what I'm going to do for this group. And then we'll meet back again. And at the end of March, we may take steps to start maybe moving some of it forward. And like I mentioned before, that could be a wide range. That could be absolutely, Karen. That could be, again, letters of support. That could be getting the word out. I might even reach out to the legislator and see what they might want. So there's a wide range of things that we could do as a committee. And then obviously we're going to be going back to the larger partnership regional and making recommendations. So that will be our ultimate. But I think this is so exciting. It's a beginning. And so I know I'm kind of nerdy about this, but I love this. And so let me know if anybody has any questions at this time. Happy to answer them. I really appreciate your time very much, and thank you. And so I'm here if you want to ask any questions, and if not, I will say thank you. And I hope the rest of your week is wonderful, and we'll see each other at the end of March.
Super excited. Thank you, Tracy.
Thank you, Donna.
Yes.
I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Appreciate all the updates on the bills. Thank you.
Thanks, Karen.